With that, we are now joined by the winner of the most successful cultural transformation leader, DevSecOps and SRE award. Let's all put our hands together for Mr. Krishnakant BN, Senior Technology Architect at Infosys. Let's all welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thanks to the DOIS 2021 awards team and the jury for selecting us as the winners of the award under the category Most Successful Cultural Transformation. I am Krishna Kant, Senior Technology Architect at Infosys, with around 15 years of experience in Java J2E development. And I also have got experience on SDLC tools consulting. And currently, I'm leading the DevSecOps platform development team. With me, I have Shilpa, who heads the DevSecOps implementation at Infosys IT. We are going to talk about a massive transformation journey in Infosys IT driven by platform approach. And we'll talk about the kind of benefits we saw. So I'll request Shilpa to introduce herself and set the context for this transformation journey.
Hi, good day all. I'm Shilpa, Associate Vice President in Infosys IT with 22 years of experience in .NET, SAP, and open source technologies. I anchor DevSecOps for Infosys IT. We'll talk about DevSecOps transformation at scale at Infosys IT, the challenges we faced, the solution that worked for us, and the results from this journey at scale. We represent Infosys, an organization with 259,000 employees and 14 billion US dollar revenue across 46 countries. Our mobile application, Infimi, alone gets 10 million hits daily. With this scale, systems become digital backbone for our organization. Live Enterprise is our digital transformation journey and talks about ever learning and evolving organization. The book for Live Enterprise Transformation is available online. When the pandemic struck, quick turnaround for changes in processes for work from home was an acid test for Live Enterprise. Our systems and processes had to undergo quick changes for work from home, and Infosys IT enabled the changes in processes for quickly and with good quality. To understand how we did this at scale, we need to understand the digital transformation and agile DevSecOps journey of Infosys IT. IT started its digital transformation journey in 2017. We were primarily .NET and SAP shop with manual functional testing and homegrown release tools. There were 200 plus web applications to be transformed. For digital transformation, speed of delivery was important, and logical first step was to move from waterfall model to agile. We had tailored agile training programs for Infosys IT and the business partners. More than 1,000 employees were trained during this program, followed by agile assessment framework definition and the agile certifications. We now have 50 plus certified scrum masters. DevSecOps was needed as old homegrown release tools and manual testing would hinder the speed of digital transformation. The next important step was to standardize the technologies for digital transformation. Movement from .NET to open source was clear direction. We had identified seven new open source technologies for digital transformation. There were 200 applications with more than 1,000 pipelines, 6,000 bills per month, and 50,000 test cases per month. Automation for DevSecOps had to keep up with the speed at which the new technologies were being standardized. Ease of adoption for DevSecOps was critical ask to manage the scale. As we were continuously learning and evolving the new tech stack, we needed agility to add new technologies and to change tools for CI/CD and CD on the fly. With the agility and speed, we also needed governance with common habits and routines across teams, visibility for adoption of DevSecOps practices. This was critical decision point for us, and we asked ourselves, how do we scale DevSecOps adoption across thousands of components? Are technologies changes disrupting DevSecOps automation setup? How do we cope up with the constantly changing tools? And how do we govern such DevSecOps transformation at scale? At this juncture, Infosys DevSecOps platform gave us ability for ease of use, scalability, and a good governance platform. Krishnakant, over to you for talking about solution that helped Infosys IT transform at scale.
Thanks, Shilpa, for sharing the challenges in the Infosys IT landscape. So when we talk about DevSecOps adoption and that too at scale, these are some of the common challenges that we see. So it's quite easy to set up a DevSecOps pipeline for a single team. So the team can get enabled on the required skills. They can choose the tools that they want, and they can write the scripts automation that they want, and they can stitch together and get their pipelines created. But if we have to talk about an entire portfolio with thousands of components, each component having a different way of deployment, different technologies involved, and different tools that need to be used in the pipeline, it becomes very challenging to standardize and also govern that implementation, both process-wise and tool-wise. Without standardization and governance, a lot of investment is required to set up and maintain multiple tool integrations, customize the processes, and also we have to maintain isolated tool implementations as well. So this diversity in the system makes it very difficult to get overall visibility into the problems, performances of development teams, QA teams, and all other teams involved in the value stream. So any small change required, it will lead to a lot of manual interventions and impact in several areas. So what Infosys IT needed was an enterprise-grade platform, and Infosys DevSecOps platform was for that. So what is Infosys DevSecOps platform? It's basically an enterprise-grade cloud-first DevSecOps solution that provides a platform approach for distributed agile and DevSecOps transformation with quality, speed, and at scale. So first, let us look at how IDP helped in simplifying and accelerating adoption. The platform comes with a no-code DevSecOps pipelines for over 25 plus technologies, and it has ready integrations with 85 plus industry standard open source and commercial tools. For novice users, the platform comes with an abstract, de-skilled visual interface to easily manage the pipelines, and the entire pipeline can be configured in a scriptless fashion. The platform also comes with a predefined set of templates to help in standardizing the engineering practices. Secondly, the tools and technology landscape was undergoing major transformation in Infosys IT, and the platform had to readily support different tools, different technologies that are in the landscape. So while the platform already supported most of the tools and technologies, it had the extensible plugin framework, which actually allowed teams to onboard newer tools and technologies rapidly. The platform is cloud native and it supports DevSecOps in a hybrid cloud ecosystem as well. So Infosys IT has several applications with deployment targets spread across on-premise as well as cloud infrastructures. So IDP helped in touchless deployments across these hybrid environments. And IDP in itself is a microservices-based platform, and it runs on a scalable container orchestration platform like Kubernetes. So lastly, in the governance area, IDP's granular role-based access controls helped in onboarding various IT stakeholders come into the DevSecOps workflows and made them to actively participate in shift-left security and compliance-related actions. The platform has powerful logging, telemetry, and reporting built into it, due to which it makes the automation completely auditable as well as SOX compliant. The AIML insights in the platform offers predictions and recommendations on various areas, such as developer analytics, infrastructure utilization, release risk, application hotspots, etc. And IDP in itself is built on live enterprise principles, and it possesses capabilities to act as a key enabler towards a sentient DevSecOps tooling ecosystem. So this is how IDP plays a vital role in the DevSecOps tooling ecosystem. It complements the existing tooling investments, and it elevates the teams to move from basic pipeline-based tooling into an enterprise-grade DevSecOps platform. So, which typically is characterized by zero latency, proximity to source, instant simulation, among many others. So, value stream analytics, SecOps and data ops practices, cognitive automation. These are some of the typical capabilities enabled by the platform, which makes it truly enterprise grade. And this journey is characterized by self-service mode for teams to onboard themselves without the need to learn or acquire DevSecOps skills or depend on experts outside the team. Okay, and the platform also democratizes extensibility and makes it possible for teams to extend the capabilities themselves in a self-service mode. The platform standardizes the tools and automates the processes, and it shifts left the security practices, making the applications more secure. The platform actually takes a tools and technologies agnostic approach to cater to the various needs of the enterprise teams. And this was put to best use in Infosys IT as it was adopted across legacy, package, mobile, data, cloud, and hybrid application areas. So we'll just show some glimpses of how IDP was used in Infosys IT. So now what we are seeing is how IDP helped in faster decision making with minimal steps in the workflow, and the platform presents relevant data at point of use for decision making for different personas. So here we see dashboards of application leads, developers, architects, scrum masters. Some of these metrics are also part of the performance management system. So thereby it establishes a kind of transparent DevSecOps culture which can drive healthy team performance and productivity as well. So these views are completely personalizable, and it provides one-stop access to information across the SDLC landscape. So next, IDP also helped in reducing closure time of workflows. So all the human touch points required in a DevSecOps process were minimized, and the end-to-end DevSecOps pipeline offers zero-touch automation capability, and it also provides instant feedback for different stakeholders to immediately act on. So next is how the platform provides what if scenarios kind of options in the flow. So it suggests alternatives, recommendations to optimize costs and mitigate risks. So some examples are given here of how agile velocity, defect trend forecasts are done for a team. On the right side, infrastructure utilization data and also the predicted data is available. And at the bottom right, there is also an indicative cost saving snapshot in the infrastructure area. If recommendations were to be implemented, it can actually lead to a certain cost saving. So these kind of insights also are enabled through the platform. So feedback and the data gathered at crucial flows and user interactions will help first in improving the platform itself and also to improve the usage of the platform. So this data is also used to derive the overall maturity of the DevSecOps compliance across teams. And every component or micro frontend in the platform is also enabled with micro feedback, which captures feedback from the user for every transaction or for every key action on the platform. And then it also has very easy access to knowledge and expertise and helps in making easy decision for the developers and other stakeholders. It guides the user to perform an activity and get access to information in minimal steps. And it also hides the complexity involved in the structure and the processes of the systems involved. The last and the most critical aspect that was addressed was around security, compliance, and governance. So here the platform provides multiple capabilities which helped Infosys IT to address security, compliance, and governance concerns from different dimensions. So firstly, the platform provides golden templates which can be enforced at a portfolio level. So all teams have to mandatorily adhere to a certain way of performing DevSecOps automation for each technology. And secondly, the portfolio leads can also enable gating criteria and they can set the thresholds on code quality, test coverage metrics, and different other metrics which will be applicable to all pipelines and applications under a portfolio. And then the platform also supports integrations with different security tools for code scanning, container scanning, open source scanning, etc. And it also provides very granular role-based permissions, which can help in easy access management. Observability is a core principle of Live Enterprise Framework, which is already built into the platform. A lot of telemetry and logging helps in extracting audit reports for executions, deployments, configuration changes, access management changes, etc. And the platform integrates with vault-based secret management systems to store all the sensitive data. And it also has an approval-based workflow mechanism to help different stakeholders to participate in the review process within the platform and manage the changes. And lastly, as an additional check in the governance flow, we also integrated the platform with one of our homegrown release management solution. So this means that the default capabilities provided by the platform also is further strengthened by this release management process, which is baked into the solution. So these aspects helped us to immensely keep the DevSecOps automation at scale, and it also helped in the applications delivered become more secure as well. So this way, IDP was adopted for this massive transformation of Agile and DevSecOps practices at Infosys IT. So in the initial phase, we considered basic CI practices to be onboarded for all the applications with SonarQube and code quality checks enabled. In the next phase, we targeted integration with our homegrown release management solution, and we extended the CI capabilities to perform cloud-based deployments, database deployments, infrastructure deployments. And during this shift, actually many tools were realigned on the fly. So we had ready support in the platform, which could help in adoption of these tools on the fly. And we now have 7 different new technologies fully onboarded with around 200 applications and thousands of pipelines running. So we do over 300 releases per month. And there are around 10K plus builds and 50K plus automated tests that run as part of the pipeline. So as a next step, the journey continues with SRE capabilities getting enabled on the platform. And our target is to make applications more resilient by employing self-healing and auto-remediation techniques. And also, we would use more ML-based insights and recommendations for more automated and accurate decision-making. So I would request Shilpa to conclude by sharing some of the benefits that we saw in this implementation.
So how did this platform approach help Infosys IT in its transformation at scale? Here are the results. The touchless end-to-end automation adopted for DevSecOps of over 7 technologies on over 200 applications has resulted in 2x productivity increase. Thousands of pipelines running in the platform with over 150K builds happening through the platform till date has shown 4x increase in velocity and 75% improvement in lead time. This also has brought down the turnaround time significantly in service testing, regression testing, and cloud releases. Few other engineering matrices of interest are improvement in code quality and CT adoption by about 20%, and also increase in automated deployments by 4 times. With the adoption of DevSecOps at scale with IDP, we were able to implement the process changes needed for pandemic work from home within few days for our mobile platform Infimi. 94% of Infosys employees were enabled within few days of pandemic starting with work from home. Quick turnaround due to this transformation at scale helped organization to align to changes needed for pandemic quickly. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you so much for your patient hearing.
Thank you for DOIS team for giving us the opportunity to talk about it. Thanks.
We'll be now heading over to our runners-up and winners in the leaders category of awards. First up, we have Mr. Rohit Sinha with us, who is a principal architect at T-Systems ICT India and runners-up of the SRE Leader of the Year award. Let's see what he has to say. Over to you, Rohit.
Hi everyone, my name is Rohit Sinha, and first of all, I would like to thank the event organizers and the sponsors for choosing me for SRE Leader of the Year award for DevOps India Summit 2021 as runners-up. Thank you for that. I'm a principal architect in T-Systems, Deutsche Telekom company, and today I'm going to talk about a lot about how was the journey, how what was the idea behind all of this, the problem statements of the topic which we are going to discuss from an SRE standpoint, the problems which we faced, the unique setup which we had to put in place, the tooling and the ways of working of a monolithic organization which we have, and how we try to transform it and end it up with the challenges. So that's how I'm going to cover all of these details. What you see on the screen is the entire setup. I have only one single slide to share. So I will go one by one when I explain about our journey and our thought process when it comes to the rollout for the SRE in our organization. So from start, ours started as a monolithic organization. When I say monolithic, I mean an organization which is pretty strong in the process, but that process has not changed for years. So they're very strong in what they do, but there has not been a certain degree of transformation which was required to make sure that we are still competitive and also to make sure that we are doing our stuff in the right way. So we also had legacy tooling in place. We also had we did have monitoring, but it was rudimentary and to an extent a little bit outdated, to be very honest, and high on governance to ensure that's how it was being done initially, right? When the technology was not up to the mark which we wanted to. So this was the problem which we had, and it was a mandate that we will first of all we looked at different ways of looking at transformation internally. Then we zeroed it down to site reliability engineering, ways of working. I think it is more a philosophy rather than a tool, which is a plug and play for us, right, or for anybody for that matter. Site reliability engineering for me is a bigger cultural shift than what people can imagine. Yes, there is an element of technology involved in it. There is an element of tooling involved in it and a rollout involved in it. But it is primarily a cultural shift which we are looking forward to, right? So coming to the point of people know about site reliability engineering, how Google did it. They have great examples. You have things online as well as on the books which they have published. But the problem is slightly different. It's great to be part of a product-based organization where you can have a setup of SREs and then pretty much the things are being governed from there. We had a slightly different problem. First of all, we were into services. Second, we had chunk of big setups for particular customers, which in itself were generating revenue enough to form a company. So, and also there were very specific tooling requirements which come from the customers' ways of working. There was indulgence from the customer side as well, even though we call it managed services. But there was a certain degree of specifications which were very specific to some of these customers, right? So ours was a service organization, so we needed to have a special setup of SREs. We couldn't go with only a horizontal, so we came up with the concept of what we call as the horizontal and the vertical SRE setup. So the horizontal SRE setup is nothing but what we call as bootstrap team, as you can see on the screen, right? So we have the shared site reliability engineering where we have a horizontal setup where we actually invested in getting some of the best site reliability engineers from the market as well as some potential good ones in the organization. A very thin layer whom we call as a horizontal SRE, who were making sure that they hold the entire structure and setup in place because they are the ones who know how it works. And it was also ruled out that we had to retrain our organization. I mean, we can't keep on hiring for each and every service units which we have new SREs. So we have to retrain. We have to transform our existing staff into a situation where they start performing as an SRE, right? So for that, we needed a layer. It's a very thin layer, 10 people across the organization who would form what we call as the horizontal enablement of SREs. Then we had the vertical SREs. Now, one of the key elements of having so many designated SREs, where I will be very honest, not all of them were SREs to start with, even from a mindset or a cultural perspective, was that we needed maximum penetration. If we do not have maximum penetration in different unit, it will be very difficult to get that culture to the downmost level. It will be like more like a culturally at the governance level, but the real work which is done at the ground level is not changing actually. So for that we needed maximum penetration. That's why we had the concept of vertical SREs. Means we identified SREs down to every tribe. Okay, and that was for us unique because we didn't have that many SREs, to be honest. So we had to do a massive scale up exercise to get there, but that was the only way out to get to that level, right? So we started doing that, pushing it through into the each and every lines, each and every tribes who were delivering business to the customer. And also at the same time, we have to educate the entire ecosystem that hey, you have SREs, you have to use them in the right way. How is the ways of SRE ways of working, how things would happen, and so on and so forth, right? And then we had to put a structure and a governance in place, which was very important from an SRE standpoint, because we have to ensure that they're not deviating from what we are trying to achieve. It's very easy to deviate when you have customer pressure, and then you just think that new transformation is not working at this point of time. So let's park it for some time and use our guys for doing what we have been doing best for last years, which is just do classic ops, which will be a very dangerous proposition for us because the investment is so heavy and we have to make sure this appeal works. That's number one. The other unique setup was usage of data science. So the organizations are very obsessed with analytics when it comes to ITSM data, IT service management data, incident events, tickets. They're pretty good at it. You can do splice and dice about it. You can bring out brilliant reports. You can even try to do a trend recognition and all of that. But we wanted to do an element of log analysis into it. There is a reason behind why we have the log analysis in place. For that is because we wanted to ensure that the logs are actually being used for doing predictive based setup. Now that will be on top of what we do as part of analytics for ITSM, which is very prevalent. Even we'll go a little bit more into the details when I talk about the tooling part of it. But that was the idea. And also we never wanted our SREs to look at where the problem is. We've always wanted to let them know that what is the problem. Now, in a lot of setups which we have seen, and we have also experienced the situation where we have gone to an extent of asking the SREs, okay, this is where we see a problem based on classic analytics of, this is the assignment group, this is where the tickets are coming and things of that sort. But and then we never wanted SREs to just be drowned into a lot of Excels and trying to figure out a needle from a bundle of hay. So this is where we have to use the data science, the power of data science tactically, to ensure that they actually get the problem in front of them rather than they figuring out the problem to an extent. I mean, obviously they will figure out the real problem and try to fix it, but we can go as close as possible to the problem using data science, and then leave it up to them and trust their ability of making judgment as to how this goes ahead. The other element of this was automation. Now everybody loves the new tools which are there in the market. I'm myself a big fan of all the new DevOps tools, especially the open source tools which are there in the market. But we have to be practical as well. We have setups which have been running for years, and maybe that time it was cutting edge, but now those tools are maybe legacy. We cannot tear down the wall in one day. So what we have to do is make a mix of it. So we put up a concept of making sure that both of them coexist, make sure that we slowly transform into the new setup while we slowly get rid of we had a micro focus based tooling setup, which is, by the way, now getting modernized as well. But we had the old HP setup, which slowly has to be moved on, and slowly some of the new DevOps tooling have to take the place. It was accepted very widely also because, as I told you, a lot of customers are very specific about tooling. So we have to make sure that we are not crossing that line, because there are contractual agreements which we have to look into to ensure things are in place. So this entire amalgamation of all of this factors which I talked about was actually which took us to the point where we started looking. All right, this is a real deal, and this is actually the wheel is starting to move slowly. I'll be very honest. The wheel was not that. The movement was not that quick. I mean, and it will not be quick because as much as we talk about tooling and processes, it is a cultural shift which we have to look into. People have to use. You can make the best of the tooling available to them. It has to be used. So that means we have to ensure that the process is also binding all of these together to ensure that the usage is happening. Tech refresh, we name analytics driven setup. These are all fine. We invest heavily on it, but it has to be used for the proper output which we are looking for. So we, from a tooling aspect, we had two parts. We had the stage one, which we call, we didn't let out the ITSM data go just that way. We looked at creating models using machine learning to ensure and backtest it to ensure that we are able to actually figure out the exact technology problem as much as possible, so that SREs don't have to drill through the Excels. We called it the stage one because we have to start with somewhere, right? But the stage two was the paradigm shift. And what I'm going to talk now is something which is in progress with us, but it is a paradigm shift for the organizations as well, and I think for the industry as well. So we are in a situation where we are using log-based setup for doing predictions of what will happen in future. Let's take a step back and talk about the classic ITL which we have at this point of time, where the problem management is very, very reactive. But when we are talking about being proactive using and the concept of SRE, we have to ensure that we arm them with enough ammunition so that they can be actually proactive. And prediction is one of those. There are many more, but we chose prediction because we have immense knowledge of how we can use infra data, and we are mostly into infrastructure business, right? Cloud or non-cloud. So how we can use that data to do predictions. I mean, just to give an example, infrastructure failure can be predicted based on the combinations. There are close to 30 odd parameters on a server. I can give a very rudimentary example, which have to be looked into from a correlation aspect and looked at and see which factor affects what. That's the correlation metrics using data science we can do, and also put a prediction model. Maybe use some of the setups like Arima to ensure that we can do a prediction based on certain thresholds. Backtest it with the data which we have to ensure the accuracy is there. But the real deal comes: is the process ready to do a prediction based? We are so happy today in the way of doing incident management that we look at incidents which are, by the way, static thresholds, be it infrastructure, API, application, anywhere. 80%, 85%, 90%. You put a threshold, it crosses it, you get an alert, and you work on it. What we are talking about over here is dynamic threshold. We're talking about moving averages. We are talking about, like, if I can take an example of a stock market, yeah, the graphs which are going there. If you can put the prediction in place, and if the accuracy is good enough, you can actually predict what might happen in 8 hours from now. Now that is technology part. We have done that. The second part is, how does process take it? So our operations is so used to looking at closing incidents and tickets that what happens when they look at a prediction and say, okay, 8 hours down the line, we are going to have a problem. What do we do next? That is where the proactive problem management will come into picture, because you have 6 hours to close it, because in 8 hours it's going to go down. Okay, so you change. There's a paradigm shift of how you do day-to-day work. Okay, at an ops level, not to mention at an SRE level for sure, but even doing it at an ops level. And that for me was one of the paradigm shifts which we look at. We are still trying to adopt it. We have done the initial pilots rollout. We have learned our lessons over there, because changing that overnight is not going to work out. But we have figured out our own mechanism, and I'm sure in future this is going to happen across as data science grows into real time, and starts hitting real time operations in future, right? So that's how we worked out. I'll quickly cover the ways of working also, and also a little bit on the challenges part. So ways of working, obviously culturally, there is a big shift. We are a European-based organization, so there is a big shift in moving. And as I talked about penetration, we are now in a position where we are having close to bi-weekly setup with each and every SRE tribe to ensure that we are following the principles. We are not targeting all the principles at one shot because it's not possible. We cannot have a release train immediately available because we have a combination of new and old. But we are looking at toil reduction. We are looking at some of the aspects from automation, which I talked about already. But also from an observability standpoint, we are also using data science for anomaly detection. Some of the algorithms like random forest, isolation forest, to name a few, which are being used on this log data to look at those anomalies which we are looking forward to, because that will help us be ready. That's a real literal meaning of being proactive, will be to be ready and make sure that this works out right, very well. This actually gives us a leverage to take risks, which is also about taking risk. And also, because we have so much of data crunching in there, and we have already educated the tribes, to the guys who are working in that mode. So the error budgeting becomes very important, and that's where the service leads have to understand actually how to put it in. There's a hand holding which is happening from our horizontal SREs to ensure that in each and every area we are able to define all of this. Okay, it's, as you know, it's a process which goes on. I'll quickly cover the challenges which we had. Many of them, to be very honest. First and foremost, at a very high level, I can talk about that SRE should not be used as an instrument for instant efficiency target or gratification. It's not. It's a journey. It's a transformation cycle. Okay. So if somebody is expecting that, just roll it out and it will work out well, that's not going to happen. Second, you can designate SRE, you can get the best of the SREs, but if you don't give them the best tools to work along with, usually data-driven tools to work along, it's not going to work out. The wheel will not turn. There would be obsession for KPIs, always contracts KPIs, so we have to keep a check on that. The quality people love KPIs, no offenses, but we have to go beyond the KPIs. We have to look at actually what is the reliability. The word itself says, right, reliability. We have to look at the reliability of the system rather than just making sure the KPIs. And smartly, if we put the KPIs or the error budgets in place, it can be achieved. We have mandatorily put in postmortem, and it has worked wonders. It's one of the exercises which we say it was a challenge to start with, but it has worked wonders. It has made sure that some of the services have become extremely reliable because there is so much of sharing happening across, right? Reskilling and upskilling of the teams for maximum penetration, as I talked about, and more so from a cultural shift, restructuring and alignment is absolutely necessary. You cannot run the monolithic system without doing a certain degree of restructuring and making sure the SREs are actually empowered to take those decisions for the betterment of the services. To end off, I have a quote to end this entire stuff. Yeah, I would say those who fail greatly can only ever achieve greatly. Thank you very much for your time.